Welcome to the Fort St. John Association for Community Living Shining Brighter podcast. We are putting a spotlight on success stories and solutions to the problems of exclusion and apathy in the world of people living with developmental disabilities and complex needs. My name is Jared, and I'm one of your hosts today. I'm joined by a few guests, which we're looking forward to. And I work with the Fort St. John Association for Community Living as the stewardship manager. And my role is to help tell the stories of the individuals we support and the staff who are the foundation of our work. And as well, I get to invite the community to join us as supporters and contributors to our work so that our mission is stronger than ever. And joining me as co-host again today is...
Kelly.
Yeah.
What up?
How you doing, Kelly?
I'm good.
You're good. What's new?
Besides school, nothing.
But you're back in school.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been talking about that for a while.
Yes.
How are the first few days?
You mean the first 2 weeks?
Are you ready? 2 weeks in?
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. Time is flying. Yeah. So for those who are maybe tuning in for the first time, what are you studying?
Right now, I'm doing criminology. It's one of my electives for my high school diploma.
Yeah.
So,
And you are within sight of completion.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's so
I
good.
couldn't be happier.
So, yeah, it's good to be here on the podcast today with two friends, one a staff member and one a community partner. We have with us Alaysha, who works with the SIL program, and Cameron, who is with Saplings. And I think this is a first for us where we've got two guests with us, and it's so good to have you both with us. Alaysha, how are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing amazing.
Yeah?
Got me some coffee. I'm ready to go.
You ready to go?
Yep.
Excellent. And Cameron, how are you?
I'd say similar. Quite excited to be here.
Yeah, so good to have you. I think this is going to be a great episode, good conversation for us to dig into a really important program with the association and to learn about a wonderful partnership and hopefully shine that light on the significance of partnership. But Alaysha, maybe we'll start with you. First, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your role in SIL? Tell us what SIL is, and then we'll want to learn a little bit just about you.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My name's Alaysha Robinson. I work for the Association for Community Living, and I'm the Supported Independent Living Supervisor. The SIL program offers outreach services to people who live independently, who have complex needs and or developmental disabilities. Support looks different for everybody. It's kind of depends on the person. It's life skills, community engagement, things like that. It really depends on the person. So kind of changes.
And did you dream about being a SIL supervisor when you were in kindergarten?
No, I don't even remember what I wanted to be in kindergarten. Didn't really think that far ahead. But when I was in high school, I did want to be a social worker.
Okay. And you did some studies then further for that?
No, I worked outside of when I was done high school, I went and worked at a senior home in my town, and then COVID hit, so then I took a gap year. But then in the meantime, I built so much experience and, working on the ground that I didn't really need the schooling to get into the work I'm in right now.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I want to go into eventually, but yeah, I've just had so much experience that I am able to work in the role I'm in now.
And that's so critical. And I think we've talked about that with other staff who've come on to life experience. Nothing counts, I think, more than that when you actually get involved in working with people, getting to know them, the ins and outs of the uniqueness of relationships and the challenges that come with that. Yeah, I think now she was your partner as a supervisor, and now she is your supervisor, Evelyn. We were talking with her a while back, and her experience in the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry, very relevant, right?
Oh, yes. And
so I think that's really important. Now, we're not going to discredit education because I think we have someone here who's probably really educated. We need both, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it is an important thing, and often we talk about that this podcast, we're anticipating staff to listen to, or people that might be interested in working in the association, and people from the outside who are maybe curious about the work or thinking about getting involved might discredit themselves saying, I haven't gone to school or I don't have the experience, but it can be gained, right? And we love being a part of helping to develop people. And like you say, you have ambition for that to continue to go forward. And you said you're not from Fort St. John originally.
No, I'm from Manning, Alberta.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 3 hours north of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was the connection to Fort St. John?
Well, prior to Fort St. John, I lived in Prince George with my boyfriend. He finished his engineering degree at UNBC, and then he got a job at SNC Lavalin, and he's an environmental scientist there.
So he's a smart guy.
Smart guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite interesting, our conversations after work, like he's like, "Oh, what did you do for work?" And I'm like, respecting confidentiality. I'm like, "Oh, bit of a firefighter sometimes,
Yes.
putting fires out and, dealing with crisis." And he's like, "Oh, I stuffed jars of dirt and tested it." I'm like, we both had our days.
Yes. And both things are really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's great. We'll come back to learn more about your role, but Cameron, tell us a little bit about yourself. So you are with Saplings. Tell us about your position, what led you into that, and how did you come to be in a podcast on the Association for Community Living?
Yeah, a couple of great questions. So my name's Cameron Close. I was born and raised in Fort St. John. I moved away after high school. Moved away after high school to continue my schooling and to play soccer. And about 6 years later, I kind of got in connection with Saplings, and that's what brought me back to Fort St. John, was to come back here and work. Kind of had plans to return to Fort St. John, but wasn't really sure how it was going to look. So Saplings kind of helped, convince me to come back. My role at Saplings, so I'm an early psychosis interventionist. So what that means is I work with people with psychotic disorders or who may be queried to have psychotic disorders for the first couple years, helping them with, understanding what their new diagnosis is, helping them kind of get quality of life, providing education to the family. Oftentimes there's a lot of moving pieces involved. So it involves something we call case management, which looks like making sure that they have their appointments with the nurses and their psychiatrist, and that, sending them reminders for those things. So how I got into that was initially I started with Saplings doing mental health and substance use counseling, and this opportunity kind of came up, and I love to try new things. So I said, sure, why not? And I think it's been about 2.5 years I've been in the role as a early psychosis interventionist. Very
cool. So tell us a little bit about Saplings. What is Saplings?
So Saplings is a private organization that works with mental health. That is a mental health service. It started about 4 years ago, probably pretty close to September, I would say. It was started by the two founders, who were Laura and Julia, and they just noticed that there was a kind of a gap in mental health services, especially in relation to youth going to our hospital. So I think there's some things online about youth coming to our hospital and then having to go back to community without maybe proper supports in place. So they started trying to think of how can we fill this gap, and so they started doing inpatient and outpatient support. So meeting with youth while they're in the hospital to help us meet with the families, communicate with the doctors, and then outpatient offering them counseling until they can be picked up by a more long-term program. Since then, it's expanded a lot. We have a lot of different programs, kind of like the model with Saplings. We try to fill the gap. So we just look and see where services, what kind of services we can offer in the community. And then we see how we can get support or collaborate with individuals in the community to get those happening. So we have a life skills program. We do connect parent groups for parents in the evenings. We do a lot of mental health and substance use. We also often have master's practicum students, so they can offer community counseling, and they're under supervision through our clinical director.
Oh, that's so cool. It must be interesting. So like you said, you've lived in Fort St. John a long time, joined the ranks of Kelly, who has not been able to escape Fort St. John. So being with a program like this, and it's something we've talked about often, one of the challenges of being in a northern community is lack of resources. But here you're working for an organization that is hopefully helping to fill some of those gaps. Do you feel and I don't know, were you connected in human services prior to this? Did you have an understanding of kind of the landscape in Fort St. John? or did this kind of open up a new perspective for you when you jumped into it?
It definitely opened up a new perspective. I'd say I was probably quite naive. Like, I just viewed like these services, I think that they're like very much needed, so they must, be there. But I didn't have a job in the field prior to this. I was just finishing my schooling. So
yeah,
this is my first one kind of coming into it.
And do you feel like Saplings is making progress in trying to, meet those needs and be that resource that it is intending to?
I would say like probably with 100% certainty, yes. We always strive to see how much we can like change and do more. So I wouldn't say like we're just like complacent, like we've done it, we've filled the gaps, but we've definitely are with our goal of like offering inpatient, outpatient support and offering more supports to the community and bringing awareness to the community that we do have this service. I think we've like succeeded with those goals.
That's awesome. We'll jump back and forth a little bit, but we always like to hear, because Fort St. John is our community, and community is such an important thing. What do you love about Fort St. John?
I'd say part of what I love about it is just like, of course, the commute. You can get anywhere in 10 minutes, which is great. I was in Edmonton before this, so it wasn't quite the same. The other thing I love about Fort St. John is that it is big enough that there's a lot of things that I find you can do, but it's also still got like very much like a small community feel where like a lot of people, you've went to like school together, if you just know them for years, so you have a lot of like attachments that way, spread out throughout the community, which I like.
I know what Kelly wants to know is, what do you not like about Fort St. John, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would ask you, what do you not like about Fort St. John?
How much time you got? What I don't like about Fort St. John is I find there should be more to do than there is. I do like the fact that everything is within walking distance. It's definitely nice for me.
Yeah.
So, but I just find, like for me, when it comes to Fort St. John, it's hard to meet people. Like, unless you want to go to the bar and get drunk every night, kind of thing. But
Now, do you think, Kelly, that that is just a Fort St. John problem, or do you think that that's a more contemporary, current societal problem of people struggling to connect with others socially?
I would say it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Because like I know like when COVID was still running rampant and everybody had to social distance, I know that was hard on everyone, kind of thing. And
Yeah, I've wondered if that was a factor in shifting mentality. I also think technology is a big contributor too often in the negative. That we call it social media, but how social is it? And so it's interesting. I in some ways, in a small community, you can go grocery shopping and bump into people and there's different ways to build relationship, but at the same time, you can be like, I've lived here my whole life, and it's like, who are all these people? Mm-hmm. But do I take the initiative to actually get into places and situations where I might get to meet them or know them? Yeah. At least, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you've raised a really good point there, Kelly, with talking about how it's hard to kind of meet new people or meet people in the town. I think Fort St. John is known as like a working town. So everyone's like, they strive to like stay busy and keep working, and they sometimes have those small kind of social networks. So having things to meet new people is difficult, but if you have a group, sometimes there's like things you can do.
Yeah.
So there's that gap, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alaysha, what do you like and not like about Fort St. John?
What I like about Fort St. John is the community. I think it's such a small town, but like just seeing people like come together and work out problems together as a community is just amazing. Like, for example, I attended the Overdose Awareness Day.
Right.
A couple weeks ago, and just seeing all the other services, taking their own time and showing what kind of services they provide for people in need. And just going in a circle and sharing their stories and connecting with people. is just like a small piece of what Fort St. John is and how like supportive the town is. And for how small it is, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It's like very small, but very good sense of like community and working together.
So you say small. I don't know if any of you know, I came from a community of about, let's say 700, really spread out like over a much greater distance. It was a little farming village. It's actually north of Fort St. John. And so to me, I'm like, Fort St. John is like a booming metropolis now. I've traveled a lot and seen a lot of different places, but comparatively to a Vancouver or Edmonton, we definitely are still a small community. But we love our rural neighbors who are like, yeah, but you still have Walmart and Canadian Tire and everything. So
Walmart.
sorry to hit that sore spot, Kelly.
I hate Walmart. Hate Walmart.
That's fair.
Wish it would burn.
Can you get away with not going there though?
That's why there's Amazon, man.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you talked about, Alaysha, the community, the connections, and that Overdose Awareness Day was a good opportunity for that. And so tell us a little bit about this connection, the connection between the Association for Community Living, Supported Independent Living, and Saplings and the group that Cameron's involved in. How did that come together, and what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
I think the connection really started when we had mutual clients. So we'd work together and have case management meetings, and it just kind of went on from there. Cameron has been amazing to communicate with if an issue arises of like, oh, how should I approach this, or how should I do this? And another thing I think that should be mentioned is like Cameron has provided a lot of training and information sessions to staff on like what exactly psychosis is and how it works in the brain. We do have individuals who do have psychosis, so it's just great for staff to actually understand what is happening, and I think it gives like a different perspective and adds a layer of like compassion too of what the people are going through and their experience, and how to de-escalate situations without escalating them, and right words to say, or working with psychiatry, like how do you communicate that. He also brought some psych nurses from Prince George, and they talked to the staff, like we had a training session about how the medications work with individuals and what the symptoms are. And it's a cool, amazing relationship because we get to like, I feel like the Association for Community Living has like the disability side of things, where Saplings has like the mental health, and of course they intertwine in a lot of ways. But we had a FASD doctor come to Fort St. John.
And quick, I always like to pause on acronyms for anybody who doesn't know. FASD.
It's a fetal alcohol syndrome disorder.
Right.
We had a specialist come into town, and we invited Julia from Saplings, and she got to sit in and learn about FASD. So it's just like a really amazing relationship where we get to, give and educate one another and work together as a team and find solutions to better support individuals.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I was going to, then flip that over to Cameron. Is there things that you've learned from Alaysha or our team in the partnership?
Yeah, first off, thank you for all the kind words. I think I first got in touch with the association when we did a group. I'm trying to think of the name. I believe it was called Becoming Me. And it was like a group for like motivational and self-confidence for like young adults who were part of the association. So I got to help support with that. I wasn't one of the leaders who ran it or anything, but I got to just like kind of do the exercises and get to meet people. And then through then I met Evelyn and just getting to talk about our program, and I kind of got to join. I have nothing but amazing things to say about the association and the SIL program. Makes, I'd say, like my job easier knowing that there's such dedicated members in the community that want to support the individuals that I'm supporting. So it just helps, improve their quality of life.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's see how this
Okay.
will go. Well, I just think that's so neat that you've come in and done some teaching and education with our team. And obviously, it's deep, it's nuanced, it's complex. But could you, in kind of a brief way, give us some insights for just the common person who may have a family member or know someone in the community that they interact with who has psychosis and different challenges related to that, kind of tips and tricks or things that you would give from your experience and expertise to help navigate that?
I'd love to. It's definitely like something that I'm very passionate about. So you might have to like wave me off to stop talking about it.
Did I open it up?
Yeah. It's like, how much? I would say that like I always like to just start by like describing like what psychosis is, and like by definition, it's like an altered sense of reality. So what that means is that person's reality is different than what we experience, and what's important to know about that is that it's real to them. Yeah, and it's as real as like hearing the audio in these headphones. So for you telling them that like it's not real or anything like that, you're not helping your relationship with them. And then I always talk about like what the symptoms are of like how to support. So we divide the symptoms into two categories. We say like there's positive symptoms and negative symptoms. Positive doesn't mean they're good, and negative like doesn't mean they're bad. What it means is that when we have a sense of reality, positive means these are things that are added to their experience. So when we look at like things of like hallucinations, whether they're auditory, visual, paranoia, delusions, those are the positive symptoms, and they usually come later. The negative symptoms are usually what we see first. So especially when I'm giving, like educational pieces, I talk about these are the symptoms that you might notice first. You'll notice that with negative symptoms, there's a lot of overlap with other things. Negative symptoms often look at like there's isolation, loss of interest in like things that they previously enjoyed. So we'll give a description of like someone who's like a diehard volleyball player. They just stop going to everything and stay in the room, and they stop communicating with friends. There's also like slower cognitive thinking, so they'll be confused easier. Sometimes they'll be more forgetful. And those are like the starting kind of warning signs, bringing into the positive symptoms. Whenever I'm talking with like family members and those things, I always try to encourage them, if they're working with someone or they're with someone who has like symptoms of psychosis, to address the emotions and not the what's going on with them. So when I say that is that if they are stressed and worried about something, instead of telling them it's not real, it's not happening, when you're doing theirs, you're just putting yourself against them. Right. But telling them like, that sounds really terrifying. That sounds like worrying, like, what would you like to do? Do you want to go for a walk? Because in those senses, you're also not enabling them by like confirming they're like, yes, this is real for me. You're kind of just walking the middle of what is real is how they feel about it. And so I encourage families to do that, because then you're on their side, and it's not like an opposition. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And I think one of the things that's been really neat for us as an organization this year is us celebrating 65 years of our work in the community. And, obviously I wasn't there 65 years ago when people with disabilities and complex needs were dealing with the challenges they were. But I think we've come a long ways. And what you just described in the work that a group like Saplings does, I think is a big part of that. But from what you've learned and heard, how do you think the supports have changed and grown, as well as society's interaction with people with psychosis has changed since the 60s?
I'd say like a big piece is like how medications have changed. So a lot of the times we say like first generation, they had a lot of like side effects, and a lot of times they would be more like a sedative state. So the individuals who may experience these things that are on medication, they were much more like, you kind of see like stereotypical in the movies, like very sedated and like kind of in that zombified state. Nowadays, the medications we use, we really want to improve quality of life. So we don't want it to be that state. I think a big thing we try to do is challenge stigma too. Yes. Psychosis isn't something that means that person's dangerous or a threat. Yeah. So I like to think that stigma has changed, and I think hopefully it'll continue to change when we explain what it is to the community and bring awareness. So those two pieces I think have changed the most.
Kelly, I know the stigma is something we've talked about and that you struggle with. What's your perspective on that?
I would say my perspective, I don't know. I don't really have a perspective.
Do you think we've made progress in relation to stigma and regarding?
I mean, some,
yeah.
We've made some progress, but there's definitely room for improvement.
What would that look like? What would be some of the things that we could continue to advocate for and be a part of championing for improvement?
Well, just like I've said before, just treat everybody as normal as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Alaysha, with some of the work that you and your team are doing, what are some of the barriers that you feel that you're still coming into and working to try and overcome in relation to some of the mental health stuff that even Cameron's talked about?
I think one of the biggest barriers is what we're funded for and what's needed.
Okay.
So with the individuals we have at the association, they get funded for a certain amount of hours per week. So
and it's not enough.
No, and people's lives, it's not linear, right? Like you have your ups and downs. Sometimes people need more support and sometimes people need less support. And it's very difficult to fully support someone with a set amount of time. Like some people, they have grief or, they had a bad breakup or family issues or have a new job. There's like life itself is so complex. And I think just having a set equation for someone on how much support they're going to need is a huge barrier. Something that we do to overcome that, and I think is a big part of what SIL is we're a bridge to other resources like Saplings, Community Bridge, Probation. Our CAR 60 is a huge one. It allows other people to take a piece. I think it helps a little bit, but it's difficult sometimes.
And I think, I can't remember which staff it was, Kelly, maybe you remember, we were having that conversation, but one of the things about being a nonprofit is the ability we have to be creative. Mm-hmm. So we might be confined by the funding and, the requirements of the funder, but that doesn't mean that we as the provider of the service are then locked into that. There are other ways, and even if, I think that's a really good point, if we can't provide it internally, how can we connect with other partners who can, or are there other ways that we can look at the situation to still ensure as best a level of care and support and guidance that we can, but also acknowledging where our limitations are, and which is always hard, right? Yeah. How do you cope with that?
Like not with my limitations, like outside of work or just all
well,
together?
just thinking about, you come in and you see the challenges and your team comes to you and is looking for that support, and you're bumping up into a wall. It can get pretty disheartening and discouraging. How do you manage that?
I think important thing is like self-care after work. I try to separate my mind and my body a little bit and stay active. And something that has helped me too is like kind of talking to myself of like, in this moment and the situations that come, I am doing my best to what is given to me and with the information I have.
Right.
And I'm able to sleep at night knowing like I gave it my all, and another concept too is like, these are adults, sometimes they have dignity of risk to live the life that they want.
Yep.
Right.
So like that part helps too. Like these people do live independently. It's their life and their choices. The disability aspect and the complex needs sometimes can be tough because they aren't aware of what they're doing but I think if you can't separate yourself and forgive yourself for things that don't work out the way you'd want them to, then you're not going to be your best self tomorrow to provide support for that person again.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to like just keep on keep swimming.
That's excellent.
What about you, Cameron?
Yeah, what's your take on that, Cameron? You know, having been in the work for a few years, and you know, every day is different, and some days are not so good.
Yeah, I'd say some days are like not so good. Some days are amazing. Similar to Alaysha, I try to like separate work with like a routine outside of work with some good self-care. I also try to do a lot of reframing of like when I might be coming up against a wall or I'm feeling overwhelmed. I try to like remind myself that like if you know, coming against a wall and that's not working, try to change it to like I'm blessed to be in a place that I can try to create change, you know, or try to change how things have operated before. And I think also having people around you that are passionate too helps, so that you don't feel isolated, that you're just doing it alone. When you're around like community members or team members, wherever it may be, it makes it easier too.
Yeah.
I think another thing that helps me too is I do a lot of supervision in my role. So I have a lot of one-on-ones with staff. And in a way, it's helping me too, because I have those same feelings of like hitting a brick wall and like, what can we do for this person to help them? Right. And something that helps that I tell staff is like, it's good that you're feeling this way.
Right.
It's okay to be upset. It's okay to have feelings. If you don't have those feelings, that's when you should be concerned. You know, like that's why you're in this kind of job.
Yeah, it's the up and the down of it. Let's do a quick round on that. So self-care, I think, is just so critical, so important for everybody, but particularly in relation to doing human service work. Let's hear some of your favorite self-care habits, tricks, ideas, things you do. Let's start with Cameron. We're going to work around this way. What do you do for self-care that you'd share with us?
Self-care, I do a lot of, I try to exercise most days out of the week. And I like to do that as like a separation from like work and home too. So usually like when I finish work is like, I'll go to the gym, and that's kind of like my brain telling me like it's time to relax and, you know, put away work for the rest of the day. So it's like a literal physical change of like what I was doing before. That's a big one. Like nutrition too. So trying to like eat healthy, but also like enjoy what I'm eating. So treating myself when needed. Those are self-cares I probably do the most.
So don't judge Kelly and I when we go for Dairy Queen later, right?
It's across the street I might on the way out.
Yeah. What do you expect?
Kelly, what are your self-care things?
For me, it's listening to music and just or watching a good movie.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. But definitely listening to music is definitely my main.
Yeah. Alaysha?
I think I have a lot of self-care things, but my favorite one is mountain biking. Me and my partner met in Trail BC, so that's kind of what started my passion with mountain biking. But something about just rolling down a mountain, you know, like you have no choice but to think only like trail, like that's it, like okay, my bike needs to go here or else I'm going to hit a tree. So I have no other option. Like you can't be thinking about work or else you're in the bushes, you know. So, and I find it very therapeutic because you just have to use your mind and your body, and it's so the adrenaline too, I think. I don't know.
No, I was just thinking, Kelly, we're always trying to find new creative ideas for you to do in your chair. And we've talked about like this, like, you know, souping up your chair, like sports car style. Have you ever seen the folks who do downhill riding in like chairs?
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness. That is wild. Yeah. We should find you some videos. It might be a new hobby. Could you imagine doing a downhill trail in a chair?
Probably not. Nope.
They're full suspension, just like a big mountain bike.
Yeah.
But they have, I think, like, you know, hand controls or whatever, some different, whatever the accessible requirements are for that individual. And I remember, because I used to do a fair bit of mountain biking too, and it didn't go well. I have a big scar on my lip from 50 stitches of crashing. I remember seeing some of these, like they were the hardcore downhill mountain bike videos. And I thought it was pretty neat because they included clips of these guys like going off jumps and down these crazy things in these, 4-wheel mountain bike chairs. Yeah.
Yeah, I watch a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but yeah, he has an accessible mountain bike like that. And he actually paralyzed himself due to mountain biking. But
Okay.
he's still like,
He loved it. He loved it so much. He's like,
found
I'm
a
just
way
going to keep going.
Yeah. It was neat.
He's like, I'm going to keep going. I'm already paralyzed, so who cares?
yeah.
Well, that is the thing. And I think it's so cool, where we are today and all the developments that have happened is it's opened up a lot of different opportunities that might not have been there otherwise. For my self-care, I got a lot as well, but the mountains is a big thing for me. I love getting out and going hiking. But then on the flip side, I like to just sit and read and enjoy good coffee and just kind of chill that way too. And then, of course, great times with my family. But I think it's good for us to share some of those things and continue to encourage people to make sure that you have self-care that is a regular routine part of your life. So that you can do the great work that every single one of us is called to do. So in the work that you two have been involved with, can you think of any good stories of the impacts? SIL has been going for about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
What kind of a difference has it made already?
I think, so much difference. But just thinking at the top of my head, just the other day, I saw one of the individuals, I was off work and I saw an individual just walking downtown by himself without any supports. And then there was a time where they were very isolated and, scared to leave their house. Or I saw another individual at the gym working out who had still has anxiety and would never do that a year ago. I think one of our biggest success stories and what kind of started SIL, we have an individual who is now almost 2 years sober from hard drugs and has their own apartment and is engaging in the community, accessing counseling, going to the gym, going to music in the park, and just seeing the change from start to finish has been amazing. It definitely keeps you in this line of work,
right?
Just seeing the impact. The reason I actually got into this job is my job before when I lived in Prince George was outreach. I worked for the women's shelter in Prince George. It's called AWAC, so it's advocating for women and community. And I worked from 7 p.m. to 3 in the morning.
Wow.
And we would have an outreach van and we'd drive and meet clients on the street who are living there. And that's how I knew I wanted to do this line of work too. But in that role, I kind of just helped people for the night, right? And I would refer them to other resources that are available. But in this role, I get to really see start to finish. You know what I mean? I get to be there and walk alongside people the whole way. And it's really
Now I have a question on that. You mentioned that start to finish. So some of the individuals that we support and that your team is involved with, will there be a point where they won't be connected with the organization anymore? Is that the goal? Is that, and obviously you're not that far in yet, but what does finish look like?
I think I should have worded that differently. I think there's this miscommunication of us supporting people until they're completely independent. You can't improve a disability, if that makes sense. Some people are going to need support throughout their whole life.
Right.
They might need less support.
Yeah.
But obviously that would be a ideal if someone could just live independently.
A dream come true.
Yeah, but it's not always the case. And
Kelly's got the plan. When he wins the lottery, he's taken off. He's like, see you later, association.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be our biggest donor.
Nope.
Getting out of force, John.
I thought we had that agreement.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. That's it. You're fired. Since we aren't paying enough anyways. So, but yeah, I think that's a good point, right? And it is very fair. And I don't know if Cameron, you can speak to that reality that this is a part of people's lives. Some and a number has always been and will always be, and that's okay. That's and what we're doing is just coming alongside in that journey. Yeah, do you have any stories from the work you've been doing, or even in the partnership that you've had with organization?
I'd say, like, to probably keep them vague, of course, some of my favorite stories are the ones where you get to reconnect with a client after about a year. So I've kind of been in the role long enough now that I get to, like, run into people I haven't seen in a year and stuff, and just seeing, like, what they've been able to achieve is always wonderful. So I love, like, when I get to run into clients at, like, a grocery store and they come up and say hi and they let me know they're doing. So I love those moments. They're like my little successes every time. And then the other success, I think, is that this program, the early psychosis program, it was previously offered regionally. So it was just out of Prince George. So before I took it on, it wasn't something that was, like, offered up here in the north. So I service, like, Fort St. John to Fort Nelson. So it's just another success. It's like, this is just another tool people can utilize, hopefully, which is helpful for families that are struggling up here.
Now, I like to zoom out a bit and think big picture too. I'll start with you, Alaysha. Where do you see SIL being in 5 years?
5 years. Like the dream?
Yeah. What's the dream?
All the money in the world.
Okay.
Yes.
I had a great opportunity. I got to travel to Winnipeg and go to Turning Leaf.
Okay.
Last year. I'm bad with time. And I got to see Turning Leaf, and they had this amazing, ideal wraparound support.
Okay.
They had their own intake person who specifically dealt with intakes and knew where that person would fit. Just looking at their paperwork too, of, like, doing risk assessments, like, what does a bad day look for you? Like, they were just so trained, and they had counselors on site. They had an elder that would come in.
Oh, neat.
And they do, like, a drum circle, and they had Indigenous art, and yeah, it was such a big space, and people in the community just came in, and that's what I'd want to see SIL.
Yeah.
Just have all, like, we wouldn't need a bridge. We would just kind of be the center.
Like the hub. Yeah.
And just have, like, okay, we have a person for that. Let's put you here.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. We have this. And then we just wouldn't have barriers because we would have those supports in place.
I think we can do
Ideally.
it. I think we can do it. Cameron, what's your vision for where Saplings could be? I know you're not the boss, but you've been in the work, you dream, you see the potential. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
In 5 years, I hope that we can continue to grow. Like, the staff members I work with, they've all become, like, super close friends with me. So having a bigger team, I also think that it's hard to visualize, like, what we could be doing in 5 years, because I just hope that whatever the problems are that we see in the community in 5 years, we can find a way to support them. So whatever that might look like, how we can offer, what kind of specific counseling or mental health supports. And with Foundry coming to Fort St. John, I'm excited to see, like, how that'll change how we operate in the next 5 years.
We need to get them on here. That's right. We got to get Assumption on the podcast. Yeah, that is an exciting new development that will be helpful, and another partner, right? Yeah, in so many different ways, and particularly related to youth. I think it's something we've talked about, and let's just jump over there for a moment. Youth seems to be a gap, right? A lot of kids are getting good support through the Child Development Center, and then they enter the school system, but then there's that kind of lull between into the teenage, young adult years, and then what we're doing with the association supporting adults. But you guys are, obviously quite involved with youth. Why is there kind of that gap? What's the tricky part in, making the transition between, the childhood supports and then on to the adult supports?
That is a good question. I think, like, between, like, adolescent supports and adult supports, they operate kind of differently. And so a lot of the times there's, like, a transition process also isn't, like, there's not one agency that does it. So it's usually, like, a transfer of agencies and stuff. So it's easier for someone who maybe isn't super engaged to just not follow up with this program that they've never met anyone in.
Okay.
so it's easy for people to kind of like fall through the cracks that way. I think that's a big piece. I think also our community is growing, and the needs for these things like are getting bigger and bigger. So we have to keep supplying more and more people who can fill those spots, which is another difficulty, is just having people up here working in this industry. It's a much needed industry.
Yeah. Now, Kelly, you've been through the experience, right? And I'm curious to get your perspective on it. You know, when you were in school, coming into your teenage years, high school, and then kind of look into that, hey, what happens next? What was that like for you? How did you journey through that? And
it was a lot to process and deal with, especially like coming into service, like coming into the association. That was definitely a lot to process and deal with. Just for me, like having to learn all their rules and their, regulations. And
what would have made it easier?
what would have made it easier? I don't know. Would have been easier if they're, I really don't know what would have made it easier, but I feel like I've said this before, I think the association, I find, focuses too much on the disability side of things and doesn't really see the person. They just see the disability, and that's where it stops.
And I think that's a good point, right? That maybe even that transition process and the getting to know, it's the relationship side. Let's not just jump into right away, what are the challenges you have and the barriers and the goals. Who are you as an individual?
Yeah.
Let's get to know you, build that relationship so that as you grow into the supports with the association, it does not, and we would never want it to replace family. It's a complement to what your families have been doing and are already doing. But that idea of we're going to be in this for a while, and it should be more than just a job, right?
Yeah.
And so how can we relationally get to know each other? And that's, not just the staff getting to know the individual, but the individual getting to know the staff as well. And the dynamics of that, as we've talked about some of the fun stories you've had with staff, right? Yeah, that's important. One of the things that we like to ask as well is in relation to myths and misconceptions. And I'd love to hear from both of you. Alaysha, we'll start with you. What's like a myth or a misconception that, you think is out there that you would love to bust, or an insight that you would want to give that would be helpful for people to be aware of?
Myth. Maybe like I'm gonna have to come back on that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, all
Cameron,
good.
go first. I should have reviewed the notes.
Like a myth or something of that nature. I'd say just like providing the community with proper education of like what SIL like offers and why they offer it, and then, like a lot of it is like to improve quality of life. And so it's not just about supporting someone, it's about supporting them and having them do things that they enjoy and pushing them to try new things. And I think that's something that sometimes people in the community maybe don't realize. It's not just like wake up and live. It's wake up and enjoy living.
Yeah.
Well, and I think kind of the misconception to it is, if someone's connected with the association will fix them.
Yeah.
Right? That's mentality that somebody needs to be fixed, right?
They
And we're not in a, we're, like you said, we're in helping to improve and support quality life, but
we don't need fixing. We're not broken.
yeah, exactly.
And I think just success looks different for everybody.
Yes.
Right? So you might see someone and you're like, oh, that's, they're not wearing clean clothes, or they're speaking a certain way, or, you know, they aren't physically fit or something like that. It's like, if you knew this person's full story and where they were before, it's amazing what they're at right now. So I think, just success looks different for everybody, or support looks different too, right? You might just see us out having coffee with someone, but that's community engagement too. That's them ordering their own coffee, right? That's something nervous, like that's a scary thing for some people, and learning those life skills and creating relationships with community members too. So like, I think just having a different perspective on what SIL is and what it offers, I think, hit the nail on the head.
Closing thought that I want to maybe get from each of you for people that are listening, watching the podcast, could be staff members, could be individuals, could be family members. What would be some encouragement or words of empowerment that you would want to share with them? Cameron, can I start with you?
Yeah. Something I try to encourage with clients stuff is like just stringing along the days. So like, we don't have to focus on like this long, big picture. It's just like, what can we do today to make today the best and to get through today? And then tomorrow we'll do that again. And then we've strung 2 days together, and then we'll do 3. And maybe after 4 days it falls apart. But then guess what? We can just start again. So it's not this like success or not of like getting better. It's just day by day.
Kelly?
I don't really know what to add to that. So, I got nothing.
No worries. Alaysha?
I think just celebrating the small wins, you know, like, and reminding staff and people of like where we started and where we're at now, I think is really important.
Yeah. And I think if I could not really add anything, but compliment to it. And I think it's an expression of the conversation we've had today. And that is that you're not in this alone, right? And that's a bit one of the titles, part of the title of your podcast, Kelly, that partnerships and community and relationship is so important. And like you said, with success, it's going to look different for different people. Some people, that might just be having someone who greets them, calls them by name, and that's a friend to them. For someone else, it's having a vibrant, big group that you go out and socialize with. Others, it's in between. But the support of partners, friends, colleagues is so important. And I think it's one of the things that brings me joy in getting to work with the association, is not only the colleagues that we have, the individuals that we support and learn from, but then the partnerships as well that we have in the community. And I think we have a lot to look forward to in the years ahead in what we're doing there. So thanks so much, Cameron, for joining us, and for Alaysha for joining us. It's been good to have you and to learn from you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Shining Brighter podcast presented by the Fort St. John Association for Community Living. Our mission is to support individuals with developmental disabilities and complex needs achieve full and meaningful lives in our community. And why do we do what we do? It's because empowering people to shine by designing their own lives and reflecting their unique light makes a brighter world for everyone. So show your support and help share the light by subscribing to the show and sharing it with your friends. Have a great day. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.